Hello and welcome to CNC Beginner's Guide. My name is Stephen Thompson, and in this video we're going to go over the CAD for Project 1. Now, the way that this channel is organized is it's really based on this book, CNC Beginner's Guide, that I wrote. And the way that projects work is that we are going to work through a series of projects in order to learn how to program CNC machines. And the projects are going to start off, relatively simple, and they're going to work their way up to more complicated, more advanced, but it's going to be every single step of the process. So we're going to start with the 2D drawing. We're going to make 3D CAD in Fusion out of that drawing. And then we are going to, in the next series of videos, we are going to create toolpaths for a CNC machine to make that object. So every single step, all the way. So why don't we just get started? Okay, so I'm going to start in the design environment here in Autodesk Fusion, and I'm going to check out the Project 1 drawing. So this is Project 1. It's a very simple part. It's 2 inches by 0.9 inches, and we are going to make the 3D object from all of these kind of details. So I'm going to start here with the 2 inches wide and the 9 inches deep. And really, there are a lot of different ways you could draw this thing. I'm going to start with the lower section here. I'm going to draw the outer rectangle, and then I'm going to make modifications to that thing. So let's start by drawing a rectangle that's 2 inches by 0.9 inches. So in Fusion, we're going to go to, under the Create section, you can do Create Sketch. It's also this icon right here for Create Sketch. So I'm going to go Create Sketch. And notice when I do that, the buttons up here change. Oh, actually I have to select a face or a geometry for a plane first. And really you can select any plane, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to kind of draw this from the top looking down. And so that's going to be looking at this top. I kind of look at the view cube up here on the top right to get a sense of which way's up and which way's down. So I'm going to click on this plane right here, which is the ZX plane. Okay, and I get a view of these two axes. I'm going to start by drawing that rectangle. So I'm going to go to Create and then Rectangle. Now we have options here for 2-point rectangle, 3-point rectangle, and center rectangle. I'm going to choose center rectangle. And I can switch between those in the sketch palette here on the side. Under rectangle, I have options for 2-point, 3-point, or center rectangle. So center rectangle will start a rectangle from a point and draw outwards from that point. So I'm going to hover over the origin point here, and you can see it kind of snaps in with the little square. I'm going to click once and pull out here. And then I can write in some numbers before I click. So if you click, you can always add dimensions later, but I'm going to do this before I click. I'm going to hit 2. It's going to lock that in at 2. I'm going to hit Tab. It's going to go to the other dimension, and I'm going to write 0.9. And now, last thing I do is click, and it sets that rectangle. Okay, so notice that when I did go into the sketch, that all of my tools here turn into 2D sketch tools, right? So that's kind of a way that Fusion works, is that the tools that are available, or more readily available, are going to be related to the thing that you're actually doing. So I'm done here. I can click Finish Sketch, and now I want to make this 2D rectangle into a 3D rectangle. So I'm going to extrude, but I need to check and make sure how much I need to extrude. So I'm going to check this out again, and I see that this lower rectangle here is 0.5 inches tall. So I'll go back to Fusion, and I'm going to go to Create, Extrude. And I see that it selects that geometry automatically, and that's right here, the profile selected. You can click multiple profiles. You can deselect profiles if you need to actually select a different one. But when in Fusion, generally when there's something that's highlighted with a blue, it means that that's what it's prompting you to tell it. So right here is prompting you to tell the the profile. So I'm going to click that profile right there, and I'm just going to type in 0.5. And operation is new body. It's going to make a new body and click OK. All right. So we have our base rectangle that we can kind of now modify, make modifications to. So let's go back to the drawing. And I see that there's like this other square that's kind of extruded out of the top of the rectangle. And it is 0.75 inches by 0.75 inches. So, and it is 0.075 inches from each edge. Okay, so this is gonna be a little tricky, but let's go back and let's do that. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I'm just going to create a new sketch on this top surface, on the actual object. It doesn't have, sketches don't have to be on planes. They don't have to be on like the original planes. They can be on planes of the 3D bodies that you draw or that you make. So I'm gonna click that top plane, and now I'm gonna just make another rectangle. This time I'm going to do 2-point rectangle, and notice there's an R right here next to 2-point rectangle, and that means that R is the hotkey. So if you hit R on your keyboard, the rectangle tool is automatically selected. So I'm going to kind of get in this on this rectangle right here and click in around the top left corner and pull down to here, and I can actually give this my dimensions now. I could say, before you click again, you say 0.75 and tab and 0.75 and enter. Okay, so now I have my rectangle, but it is not in the right position, and I can actually move it around because it's not constrained. So as you add constraints, this thing will become locked into different positions. There's different ways of adding constraints. You can create sketch dimension, or if you have like certain numbers relative to different positions. But if you have, there's another way of making constraints if the constraint falls under one of these specifically. So we're going to go over these later, kind of in the series, but just know that you can constrain something, by tangency, make 2 lines parallel or perpendicular. You can constrain things on the midpoints. You can make 2 lines collinear. There's all these different types of constraints you can do. But we're going to work with sketch dimension, which is right here. Also, hotkey D will bring up sketch dimension. So I'm going to hit D on my keyboard. And now it's actually, this is kind of annoying. Sometimes it'll make it it'll choose a, maybe there's a geometry that's already selected before I hit sketch dimension, and it'll select that geometry. So I'm going to hit escape to clear it. Notice that line is actually clicked. It's blue. So I'm going to click empty space to deselect it. And now I can click sketch dimensions again, and now nothing is selected. So I'm going to do the edge of down here, the bottom edge to the bottom edge. And so you click each edge, and then you click again, and it brings up this value. You can enter a value here. I'm going to say 0.075. And I'm now sketch, and if I hit enter, sketch dimension is still selected. So I'm going to hit this edge and that edge there, and then click again. I'm going to say 0.075, enter. Oops, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to try that again. Not sure what happened, but the value is here. I could double click it. I'm going to say 0.075. It was probably 0.75 or something. Now this other dimension should be 0.075, but I'm just going to check it. You can see what happens. So I'm going to say the distance between here and here, and it's going to say my sketch is over constrained, and I can create a driven geometry or driven dimension, which is in parentheses here, and that means I can't change that one specifically because it's non-changeable because of the other constraints that are already there. And we can see that, well, the distance between here and here is fixed because it's on a 3D body. This distance is fixed because I fix it right here with that value. And then the distance between here and here is fixed because I fix it with this dimension. So this dimension here can only be one thing. And I really just clicked on it to check and see that it was 0.075, which it is. So it's okay to have driven dimensions in your drawing, but just know that you can't like change them. Okay. So let's take a look at our drawing again. Okay, and that top section is extruded up 0.25 inches. So let's go do that right now. So I'm going to finish sketch, and I'm going to go to create extrude. I'll select this geometry on the top here, and it's going to be 0.25. Okay, let's go back to the drawing. You can see we have this kind of like offset wall on the drawing, and it is, if we look here, we can see this value right here. The wall thickness is 0.125. Okay, so we need to kind of draw that geometry and then extrude it down. So I'm going to go back to Fusion. I'm going to create a new sketch on this new top surface here. And instead of trying to draw a rectangle and get it right in the middle of all of that stuff, there's an easier way, and it's under Modify, Offset. Offset's a nice option. I use it actually quite often. So if offset is you click a geometry, it's going to create an offset line based on that geometry. So I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller. One thing that's, to note here is that on one side of the line, the value is positive. On the other side of the line, the value is negative. So in this case, we want to make a line on the inside of that geometry we selected, which is in this case negative. So it's going to be, I'm going to type in negative 0.125 and hit enter. Okay, and we can finish that sketch. Okay, now I want to extrude that geometry down and have it cut away, because when you extrude, you can add material or you can take away material. So I'm going to go to create extrude, and I'm going to select this profile right here, and I can go, I know that this is 0.25 inches, so I can say negative 0.25, but I also know that it's down to this surface. When you're extruding, you can give values, or you can also click surfaces and it'll extrude to that surface. So I'm going to click the surface here, and it extruded it down negative 0.25 to that surface. Okay, go ahead and click OK. All right, we're getting closer. Let's take a look at the drawing. All right, so next thing to do is we have these fillets right here. And the fillets all have a radius of 0.125. So there are fillets on the outside and fillets on the inside. And a fillet is basically when you take a sharp 90-degree corner and you give it, and you round it off. So instead of having to draw those in, there's actually a tool for making fillets, and it's under Modify and Fillet. Now we can select all the edges we want to fillet. So it's going to be, you notice you can actually select edges through the object, which if you're really kind of careful of, because it's not just the edges you see, it's the edges on the other side of the object. So I'm going to click 1, 2, I can click through the body here, 3, 4, and then the inside ones, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to orbit around a little bit. And you can click on that one, 8. And then it's prompting me, I can see for a value, I'm right 0.125. And there it is. Okay, click OK. And now I have my fillets on that top edge. Okay, let's take a look. Now we could do a couple things here. Let's do these chamfers. So one way of breaking a 90-degree edge is making it rounded. And that's called a fillet. And the other way of breaking a 90-degree edge is by giving it, by making 45 degrees, or by making one 90 degree into two 45 degrees, and that is known as a chamfer. And so this chamfer is 0.05 inches on each side, and it's a 45-degree chamfer, so that means that they're both the same. So let's go into Fusion, and I'm going to go to Modify. There's another tool for chamfers right there, the chamfer tool. And it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and I'll just look around here to the 4th one. Okay. And there's different ways that you can set a chamfer. They can be equal distance, two distances, distance and angle. But let's change this to 4 edges. Let's try this way, 0.05. Yep, so that is the chamfer value right there. So it's 0.05 and 0.05. So those 2 edges. Okay, go ahead and click OK. All right, we are getting close. Last thing to do are the hole and the counter bore. So let's take a look at those. So we have, it looks like here, a 0.25 inch through hole. And the location of that hole is 1/2 inch away from this edge here and 0.45 inches away from this edge here. And we notice this thing is 0.9 inches wide, and then 0.45 is actually half of the way. So yeah, there's an interesting way of doing this. Let's go back to Fusion. So there's a nice trick that I like to use, and it's construction lines. So we're going to create a sketch, and I'm going to select this top surface here. Now we could draw a circle and then dimension it with using those dimensions that we had. Another thing that's kind of nice to do is to draw construction lines. So what I'll do is I'll make a line. So that's with the line tool right here in the top left. And under line type, I'm going to click construction. And what that basically means is that the line that I'm going to draw here is going to be a dotted line, and it won't get in the way of selecting geometry to extrude or anything like that, which is quite nice. So also notice that I can, when I'm drawing my line, it'll snap in here at different points. So it's snapped in here at the center of this edge, which is actually what I want. Center of that edge. I'm going to click there, and I'm going to go out, and I can type in 0.5 here because I know that that center of that circle is 0.5 from that edge, and it's in the center here. And I can see, make sure that I get my 90 degree or my 0 degree here, and click. And now if I click this checkbox, it's thinking I want to keep drawing lines around here, but I'm actually done. That's all I wanted was that line. So I can click the green checkbox, and it'll finish the line. So notice here I have a few constraints. I'm going to hit escape because it still has the line tool in. I'm going to hit escape. You can see I have this one constraint, which is a center or midpoint constraint. It means that this line is at the midpoint of this line, or the end of this line is the midpoint of this line. And there's a perpendicular constraint, meaning that that line is perpendicular to that line. Okay, now what I can do is I can create a circle. So I'm going to go to create and circle, and these are all the different types of circles you can make, but we want a center diameter circle. Now before we draw the circle, we're going to turn our line type, we're going to turn construction off. So it's just a regular line type, solid line type. And I'm going to click the end of this point here, and I can type in 0.25 and enter. Okay, and finish sketch. Okay, so now I got to make a hole right there that goes all the way through. There's a few different types of ways of doing this. The easiest way, because I already have the circle here, is just to extrude that circle. But there is the hole option here. So I'm just going to do this, even though it's a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, because it'll show you all the kind of different things the hole tool can do. So go to create hole, and it wants here a point. So I have a point which is the center of this circle. I can click that point right there, and it's going to make a giant hole because it's has some settings saved from someplace else. But what I can do here is I can set the diameter of the hole right here as 0.25. And this really comes in handy, especially when you have like multiple holes that you want to try and make. And also if you have like holes with threads in them, things like that, then you can say that it's a tapped hole, or hole with like, you can change the what the bottom of the hole looks like. Maybe it's made by a drill bit so that it actually has an angle. We're going to change the hole type to a simple hole, and drill point to flat, although it doesn't matter too much as long as it goes all the way through. This distance here, which is the distance through, 0.5, because that is 0.5. But with these extrusions, they can always just go more, and that's fine. Like, it's not going to save that value. That's not going to get in the way of anything else later in the design. That's just for this kind of extrusion here, or just for making this hole. So we can kind of, make that length in this case, because there's nothing below it here, whatever we want. Okay, so that's one way of making it. You can click OK. I'm actually going to click cancel, and I'm just going to extrude it, which is another way of doing it. Hit extrude, and we can do this because we have the circle there. If we just had a point there, then we would have to use the hole tool. Now I can grab this arrow, pull it down, and we have our hole. The operation type is cut, and click OK. All right, so let's go back to the drawing one more time, and it looks like the last thing to do is to make the counterbore. The counterbore is this hole above the hole that has a flat bottom to it. So we can see that the diameter of that hole is 0.6, and the depth of it is 0.25. So I'm going to make a circle that's 0.6 inches in diameter, and I'm going to extrude it down 0.25 inches. So go back to Fusion. I'm going to create a sketch on this face here, and I'm going to go to create a circle, center diameter circle, and notice that it will snap in on the center of that circle, which is nice. But if not, I can make them concentric. So let's try that. I'm actually going to draw this circle over here. I'm going to draw it right here. I'm going to make it 0.6 and hit enter on my keyboard. And now I want this circle to be at the center of this circle to be the center of this circle, and that is that constraint is the concentric constraint. So I can see, go to constraints, I can see concentric right here. I can click on that. It's also just that button right there. And click on one circle and then another circle, and then there it is. Make some concentric. Okay, finish the sketch. And now I'm going to extrude, so create extrude. Now there's actually two geometries here. There's this one here and there's that one there. Technically I only need to extrude the outer geometry, but it would be good practice to, if the whole thing is going to be removed, also do the inner geometry as well, just so there's no like infinitely thin surfaces that are left over. I'm going to make that negative 0.25 and click OK. All right, so there it is. That is project 1. So this is all the CAD for project 1. Now the nice thing is that we'll be able to take this project, take this CAD and go right into creating toolpaths for a CNC machine. And as the projects progress, the CAD is going to get more complicated, so you'll get practice with drawing different parts and more complicated parts in CAD. And the CAM and the manufacturing, the toolpath creation is also going to get more complicated, so you'll have more practice to get better at that. But that is it for Project 1 CAD. Go ahead and make your way to the next video, which is going to be making the setup for the Project 1 CAM. I'll see you there.